Today I'm sorting out the most wonderful advertising in the world for me. Well, or at least the most wonderful advertising of alcohol. But the most interesting thing is that you will not see alcohol in this advertisement. To be precise, this is an advertisement for books about Hennessy. So, you will see just a great visual picture. Amazing music will accompany this video. So what do you say? So for me, this advertisement is not advertising at all, or at least in this video. There are possible answers to the greatest mystery of humanity, or one of the greatest mysteries, because after all, what awaits a person after death is the main mystery that excites the minds of mankind. Well, the second main mystery for me is what is there, beyond the heavens. A person who does not like conspiracy theory will say, well, there is space. Yes, it is. And it's official. This is a kind of lifeless vacuum, outer space, relative empty areas of the universe, that lie outside the boundaries of the atmospheres of celestial bodies. Space is not an absolutely empty space. It still has, although with a very low density, interstellar matter, mainly hydrogen molecules, which, by the way, has a direct relationship to water, oxygen in small quantities, cosmic rays, and electromagnetic radiation. You know all this perfectly well without me. But some people have doubts, in particular me. And they are formed because air bubbles have long been noticed in space. Remember the flight of the Tesla machine, yes, or a spacewalk on the ISS, which is peculiar only to water. In other words, these bubbles are peculiar only to water. And there is a suspicion. Attention, this is my personal opinion, well, at least one of the opinions, that such a video is shot in the pool, and computer graphics are superimposed. Maybe so, I don't know. But let's abstract a little from all this official information, get a little into conspiracy theory, yes. Or even the theory of a world conspiracy. Today is just a guess. Yes, and at the end of the video, I will tell you about my new audiobook, which you will be able to hear very soon. The review is just a huge number of good ones came, which is very interesting, right? But this is fiction and nothing more. So, let's first enjoy this amazing advertisement, which I have just told you about. Many people paid attention to it, of course, but did not analyze it in detail. But I definitely have to, because my Cosmos Water videos have already gained hundreds of thousands of views, and frankly, people have asked me to do a similar review. Yesterday, let's say a letter came from one person and said, Vladimir, please sort it out, I want to. I say, well, brother, we need to sort it out. Let's go.
The ISS astronauts, American Christopher Zoddy, his Italian colleague Luca Parmitana, prematurely stopped their spacewalk due to an emergency situation and returned to the station. The Italian had water in his spacesuit.
So, first of all, let's analyze the inscriptions. At the bottom, exactly in the first minute, we see a single inscription indicating an advertisement for Hennessy cognac. We can forget about it, because we are not interested in it at all. But this text is interesting, because it reveals such an intricate and incomprehensible plot of advertising. First of all, we learn from the first inscription that Picard Auguste is a Swiss researcher, physicist, inventor of the stratostat and the bathyscaphe. Of course, I take my hat off to this mason, and I'm not being sarcastic. He is truly the greatest man. And the fact that a mason, you will understand later. In 1931, he made the world's first flight into the stratosphere. And what do you say? And then? This is an official statement. Attention, I'm not making anything up. On May 27, 1931, August Pecker and Paul Kipfer made the world's first flight into the stratosphere from the city of Augsburg, Germany, reaching an altitude of 15,785 meters. During the flight, Pecker collected important data about the upper atmosphere and about cosmic rays. Returning to Earth, the Baker stunned everyone with a statement about what he saw from a height. I quote, "He said that from above the Earth was flat, like a plate, with the edges bent up." This information is taken from this magazine, the cover of which you can now observe. And such a statement about the shape of the Earth looks like this map, or refers to the square of the hollow Earth inside which we are. In total, Picard participated in 27 flights, reaching a maximum altitude of 23,000 meters. I immediately recall the film The Secret of the Number 23. The second inscription reads something like this, again 23, by the way. On January 23, 1960, Jack Picard and US Navy Lieutenant Don Wilsh made a record dive into the Mariana Trench to a depth of 10,916 meters on the Trieste bathyscaphe, the deepest point of the world ocean of our planet, in 1960, by the way. What kind of a human being is this? And 2 years later, the Baker died. By the way, first of all, this man said that the Earth is flat, and even curved edges. What is it? Was he lying? Why? Or so it seemed to him. Here is a map of the flat land of Orlando Ferguson, 1,893 years. It is she who is closest to what Pecker saw. By the way, recently, the only well-preserved copy of it was handed over to private collectors. Where do you think? To the Library of Congress. Ferguson, by the way, had no doubt that his idea, although strange, was absolutely correct. He denied that the globe exists in outer space and replaced this concept with his own. There is a note on the map. Send 25 cents to the author, Professor Orlando Ferguson, and he will send you a book explaining the theory of a stationary Earth. It completely refutes the theory of the globe. It will help you predict the eclipse. It's worth the money. It's a pity I wouldn't have bought this book in the century before last and read it to you. Listen, some kind of map of a flat Earth, or rather a convex Earth, which was bought by the US government. Yes, according to another version, it was bought by the US Congress. But this is very strange. Why? So, let's now disassemble the clip itself. The first thing that comes to mind, if you watch the clip and remove all your conspiracy thoughts. The author most likely perfectly combined two achievements into one kind of semantic video sequence. For why does this balloon enter the water, and the parachute just breaks, and a layer of water entering the water space? The only frame that somehow reminds us of space, we observe in the first minute the 10th second. This could be the end of the analysis, because this is just the idea of the director of this video. Is this possible? Definitely yes, most likely it is. Moreover, if Picard really would have entered a certain water space, he definitely would not have returned and died. Although there were big problems with the Baker's return to Earth. But couldn't the Baker have seen something that we don't see the Earth with the naked eye and even with the help of telescopes? But let's take a closer look at the clip. At the 6th second, we see the ring. It is very similar to the rings worn by Freemasons. They are clearly showing it to us. But at the 40th second, we also see the eye in an enlarged format, which perhaps refers us to the all-seeing eye. In such an original form. Attention, the first minute of the first second of the clip. Again the ring and the drawing. Well, it looks very much like a compass, the sign of the Masons. Yes, by the way, it is the little finger that is a popular finger for wearing a Masonic ring. This is a sign of indisputably why the question. Modern Masons proudly wear Masonic seals as a symbol of their loyalty to the Brotherhood, as a symbol that indicates their belonging to one of the most ancient secret societies on the planet. I hope the question that the Swiss scientist Picard was a Freemason is closed. Although, of course, it's probably a coincidence. But I think there are no such coincidences after all. So what? You exclaim, but the fact that a Mason has a certain responsibility to society, and all the research of a great man has gone where? Under the lock in the chest. What else did Picard have time to tell us, because he incredibly wanted to share with the discovery? At least, I would just shout to the whole world, answering the question why, after the stratostat. He began to design a bathyscaphe, and Gust Picard noted that these devices are extremely similar to each other, although their purpose is opposite. Attention! The word extremely sounds strange, although in truth the functions are similar. The main thing is to isolate the device. But in the case of water, you still need to withstand enormous pressure at depth. The second is his 27 flights. 27. Attention! What did the baker in space want to achieve? Why 5 or 10 flights were not enough for him? So, he reached a height of 23,000 meters. It was this height that was unattainable for aircraft of that time, and even now there is not much who can climb to such a height. But here's the official info. I made a screenshot. MiG-25 holds 29 world records. The most significant, and still not beaten by any manned jet aircraft, was established by test pilot Alexander Fedotov. As early as the 21st of August, 1977th year. He raised his experienced MiG-25 meters to an unthinkable 37,650 meters. Of course, it was a lightweight flying laboratory, not a serial copy. But for standard cars, 23 kilometers is an unattainable height, well, for the vast majority of aircraft of that time for sure. By the way, the pilot was killed on the 4th of April, 1984, in a test flight on a MiG-31 with test navigator Zaitsev. In that flight, there was a false operation of the emergency fuel residue indication system. Fedotov decided to land, believing that the plane was low on fuel. He made a sharp maneuver, but the heavy, full of fuel plane went to the supercritical angles of attack and fell into tailspin. Neither Fedotov nor Zaitsev had time to eject. Listen carefully again. An experienced test pilot thought that there was not enough fuel, although the tanks were full, and they did not have time to eject. Something very strange. It seems to me that pilots of this level, well, at least feel the plane. Although maybe I'm wrong. Of course, we immediately remember who. Yuri Gagarin. On March 27, 1968, Yuri Gagarin died in an air crash near the village of Novoselovo, Vladimir region, while performing a training flight on a MiG-15 UD aircraft, under the guidance of an experienced instructor Sarigin. The causes and circumstances of the crash remain unclear to this day. Of course, this is not surprising. They are testers after all. Their profession is associated with a huge risk. But it is strange that 43 years have passed and no one has broken his record. Of course, I mean Alexander Fedotov. So I think that Picard emotionally shared information about the shape of the Earth. Then his comrades in the secret society told him not to spread information much there, you know. The second question is, what did Picard want to achieve by climbing the stratostats 27 times? But Picard was not the only person, of course, who tried to climb higher and higher. The Soviet Union also participated in the height race, as did the United States. For example, starting in 1934, the Soviet Union got involved in the US race for the right to climb higher on the stratostats. Numerous deaths followed these attempts from both sides. But still, most of the attempts were successful. The latter, however, also ended with the strange death of the American researcher Victor Prater, who, with a partner, already in 1961st year, just 3 weeks after Gagarin's flight, reached an altitude of 34,670 meters. The flight lasted 10 hours, everything proceeded normally, and the landing seemed to be successful. But a tragic accident occurred in the Gulf of Mexico. Victor Prater's hand could not hold the cable dropped from the helicopter, and he fell into the water in his spacesuit with his helmet already open accordingly, and drowned. A strange death, to be honest. Was that just a rope thrown to him? But I'll probably finish with conspiracy theory today. I want to finally recall one incredible natural phenomenon I have already mentioned in my previous videos. Clouds, incredibly similar to waves. Silvery clouds or nocturnal luminous clouds are the rarest atmospheric phenomenon that occurs in the mesosphere. At an altitude of 85 kilometers above the Earth's surface and are visible only at deep twilight. Attention! Clouds that are visible in the deep twilight at an altitude of 85 kilometers. This is 4 times higher than Picard was able to achieve, and twice as high as Victor Prater's result. These are the highest clouds in the atmosphere. And now attention. The second place is occupied by Lawyer's cumulus clouds, and the average height, or rather the highest point of these clouds, is 13,000 meters. This is 7 times lower. What kind of strange night clouds are these? The nature of silvery clouds, of course, has not been fully studied until now. Moreover, silvery clouds are a relatively young phenomenon. Now that's interesting. They were first reported only in 1885 year, shortly after the eruption of Krakatoa, the famous volcano, and many associated the appearance of these clouds with a volcanic eruption, but there is an assumption that this is an optical effect like a mirage. It's like a hologram, don't you think? So, it's probably time to finish, but finally we note a strange coincidence. I only saw him now. A commercial advertising alcohol, well, in which we do not see alcohol, goes for 1 minute and 31 seconds. Just my numeric code, which I used in the last name of the channel 3 threads 131. And my other current channel Vladimir 131. Oh, there really are no coincidences in sight. These are still small tracks that I'm slowly moving along. So what are the conclusions? Space water is a question mark, but this is a very distant hypothesis that does not have a solid foundation. Although it is possible to fantasize about this topic. One more time. You can recall the Egyptian mythology about the main god Nun, which literally sounds like water. He was even more important than Ra, the sun itself. You can also recall the Bible, so it seems that God created the firmament there, separated the water that is under the firmament from the water that is above the firmament. In general, if we perceive these sources as ancient messages that were simply rewritten many times by their mercantile interests or just to keep a secret, then who knows what the ancient previous civilizations knew? But if there was water there, wouldn't we be able to see it with telescopes? Here's the question. Unless there is some kind of hologram, but there are more questions than answers about the shape of the Earth here in general. Yes, by the way, one question was sent to me in the comments about the sun. And how can the sun be there if there is water there? And now I want to recall my past video and hint to you that water is a huge source of energy and can just explain why the sun generates so much heat thanks to, well, most likely thermonuclear fusion of hydrogen, which can be obtained from water, but this is the level of science fiction. The sun, by the way, also looks like an egg, if you believe this video. Now I'm going to show you. Then all this looks like sperm cells. Only the size of a planet, even more. Watch my videos about the micrometer. By the way, people in the embryo stage, as in principle all creatures, are similar to Fry. Especially the future person in the stage of the first months of growth is in the womb, in the uterine waters. This makes me think that people came out of the water, they got off the pal, as indeed, all living beings. This is how today there was a review of the clip that grew into some assumptions, hypotheses, fantasies.